New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Your hosts are two girls who believe that life is awesome, that laughter heals, and that it's possible to find deep spiritual insights in everyday experience.
Here come the girls. It's more than practical. Here come the girls. Way more than merely factual. If you want to know the secrets of a life that's free, listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically.
Hello. Welcome to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. How are you?
I am okay. Starting the morning. I was just complaining to you all. I was like, I'm starting work an hour early today because of you all. We don't have daylight savings.
I know. Life is challenging. Well, you are watching two girls who are slightly challenged by daylight savings time, but nonetheless, we are here and ready to play. I am Robyn Rice Olmsted.
I'm Dr. Natasha Wilson. And like Robyn said, we are girls behaving metaphysically, which is something we all need to be behaving as right now to make sense of everything we're seeing.
All the world. And just like that, we're there. Yeah. It's an interesting time, isn't it? I mean, when generally we talk about how our week is, and I have to say, right before this started, I mean, right as the intro was playing, I was thinking, wow, my week, and all that kept popping up was things in the news, and I don't even watch the news,
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. Yeah, I've started really listening to music more. I didn't realize how much I wasn't listening to music. And I've just noticed just like the quality of even how I can be with the news when I do watch it. I've just noticed a shift. But I just limit it. I don't think it needs to, I've sort of adopted this philosophy about news, which is I don't need to watch it all the time. I could watch it today and then watch it next week on the same day and just guarantee there'll be some bullshit. That's it. So enough.
Yeah, well, I really, growing up in all of these faiths and philosophies, I really subscribe to the fact that, the news is, Reverend Michael Beckwith always says, it's a prayer request.
Yeah.
It's just a prayer request, and so it's a little easier to look at it that way. However, I will say last night I got a call from a friend in California who was feeling a little panicked, a little beside themselves because Governor Newsom had to come on the TV and talk about that they may get bombed, that they're aiming to bomb California. And I can't say that I was surprised because all my life I've always thought about like, well, what if there was a war here? Where would they go? And then it always seems surreal that it could possibly, like go to, Orange County or wherever, you know what I mean? Just somewhere. But like, I always thought like, well, California, New York, San Francisco, wherever. And so it's quite the time we're living in.
Yeah, I did hear about that news, and it just is something about it just isn't landing right in me. It doesn't make, like, it just doesn't. I mean, it makes sense in the sense that this particular political regime has really focused in on blue states, right? Around ICE and immigration and all these political games, gerrymandering, all this stuff. And so I was like, oh, they're going to attack a state that Trump really doesn't like? I don't know. That just didn't sit well with me. So, and the person who runs the FBI, I can never tell what the hell he's looking at. So I don't know. I feel deeply skeptical about everything that comes out of this administration because they lie so much. I mean, like, in unbelievable ways, and like ways that I think we need to study or do some research or some clinical something about. Just unreal.
It is unreal. I feel like it's really, in 10 years, 20 years, whatever, when they're able to really talk about it in a different way, I think it's going to be super interesting on some level to see the strategic makeup of this whole thing, because I don't know. I fluctuate between wondering if everybody's just crazy or everybody is just maniacal, strategic, whatever, intelligent people that know how. I mean, like, you look at what's happening and, I find it interesting that we, as soon as like Hillary Clinton and other people went to testify in the Epstein files and things like that happened that didn't get blown up into something else, we took our attentions off that because they didn't want us to see that there was nothing there. You know what I mean? It's like you can't pin it on them if it's not there.
Yeah.
I don't know. And just, the way that he's been able to maneuver this time to where really it's hard to hold them accountable for the things that they need to be accountable for.
The truth is, Robyn, it's not hard. The willingness is not there by our systems that are supposed to be a system of checks and balances. The only, when we think about the branches of our government, and look, because nothing is I believe everything is connected, everything is interconnected. Even when we think about the way that our government is structured, I even think about like what all that even means even on a metaphysical level. But we have a system, or it has been designed, or supposedly, to sort of have three co-equal branches of government, right? And so the whole reason of that setup is so no one branch of our three system government gets out of line, right? Because power it can be corrupting when people don't know how to steward power well, or if they're unwell, right? Which these people in this regime, I am absolutely unequivocally believing that they are unwell psychologically. So that's its own thing. But yeah, there's like our House of Representatives, like they're not really standing up. And I mean, part of it is because
they're not really representing.
No, but then then again, that goes back to the Supreme Court, because really the one branch that's really kind of, I feel like, holding it together is the judicial branch. And it's from the judicial branch, i.e. the Supreme Court, that money in politics became something that was seen as free speech, right? And so our politicians don't represent the people. So they represent whoever's paying them, and so yeah, the will isn't there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's complicated, and yet it's not.
Right. To me, it's so not complicated. I just feel like if we stop allowing ourselves to be gaslit, right, and believe what our eyes are seeing, then it's really not that complicated.
Well, yes, and I think that's where it gets complicated, because I think that involves people having to see what they see and admit that they're a part of that. This is how this happened.
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge.
Not complicated. I think it might be hard. I think a lot of people who have not realized how important the world of emotions are, right? And especially in Western countries, it's almost like emotional intelligence. I mean, it's being taught at my daughter's school, but I never got courses in emotional intelligence. And I know none of those people that are in these positions of power and authority within our governmental system, they never had no training on, emotional intelligence. And yet it's people's emotional world that guide their decisions, right? Their beliefs would trigger certain emotions, and then they trigger certain behaviors when they're unexamined. And so it is going to be hard for a lot of people who don't like feelings that are uncomfortable, or like Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, the one who, his work in nonviolent communication, which is actually called compassionate communication, but he changed the name because the publisher knew that the word violence would be more attractive, says something about our species. But anyways, he uses the phrase, feelings that are less than wonderful. So it's going to be difficult.
And I think that flows perfectly into our topic today, because we're talking about glowing up. And what does that mean, glowing up? Because I think that that's really about exploring the transformations in life on many levels. And that's kind of where we're at, how we glow and how we radiate that out into the world. So That's what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, can I before we pull the card quick, can I just tell a story about the title quickly?
Go ahead.
I have time? Okay. Sorry. So Robyn sent me a text message today with a couple of topics for today, within our theme. And I was in the middle of getting my daughters ready an extra hour early to be here with y'all in America mostly. Okay, all good. So I just glanced at the text message, and I thought the text message said, why don't we explore how we glow up, how we know when we glow up? And I was like, yes. And then after I got my daughters off to before school care, I read it, and it was like, oh, how do we know when we grow up?
And is there a difference? We shall see in our conversation today. But before we get to that, it's just spirit in action. There's no mistakes, right? Before we get to that, we're going to do our card pull of the week. This is to inform us of what to take out into the world, or what's the sign that it's showing us. Last week we pulled the flow of partnership, and so in some ways it's no mistake that everything in the news is coming up, because how are we partnering with our world? Just a question. But now I am shuffling the deck, and Natasha, you can tell me when to stop shuffling this soulful woman deck of cards.
Okay, stop.
All right. The card is Soul's Journey. Soul's Journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, Soul's Journey. Living from soul opens me to the magic that exists when I surrender to divine manifestation on its own terms and timing.
Mm.
Oh, that.
Mm.
On its own terms and timing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me see here. Okay. Soul's journey. As a soul, I am connected to an abundant and infinite universe, one that is constantly giving birth to itself. Likewise, my body cycles are connected to the cycles of the earth, the moon, and the cosmos. It's a perpetual dance of birth, death, and renewal. On my soul's journey, I am drawn to make meaning of my experiences as they unfold. Experiences that are joyful, as well as those that are more difficult, call to me. They ask me to become more fully awake, to fulfill my purpose, to live from my essence and from soul. Living from soul opens me to the magic and abundance of the universe to which I am intimately connected. The depth and luminescence of my soul is tempered by virtues of humility, patience, compassion, and endurance. As I surrender to divine manifestation on its own terms and timing, I find that even the impossible begins to feel possible.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Soul's journey. What I think is a perfect card for today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you're out there joining us, please let us know how that shows up for you and where you're watching us from, and participate with us so we have somebody to play along with. Soul's journey. So what comes up for you?
Yeah, first of all, so much of when I think of soul's journey, and then like my individuated soul's journey, I feel like the whole trip that is this life, that is my life, has been about listening to where my soul wants to go next. I was in a meeting this week with some clinicians, and talking about how I practice, and my philosophy of practice, and my willingness to bring the conversation about one's spirituality and soul into the clinical setting. And I said, we have to, because one, right, I feel like this is so, it was just an example of my soul's journey to be in that room, providing this perspective to clinicians who want to learn how not just to retain clients, but how to attune to clients. And so I said, we have to be willing to go there with our soul. And, we think about, okay, so what we're all sitting here saying we're these trauma-informed therapists and clinicians. What does the word trauma mean? Right? It means soul wound. So if we want to be engaging in the recovery process with human beings, and we want to create spaces where they feel safe to be with some of the most difficult experiences in life. As clinicians, we cannot be afraid to think about the soul, talk about soul, and talk about spirituality. And when I say spirituality, I mean what gives people a sense of meaning. And so when I hear the soul's journey, it just makes me think of exactly how that showed up, like in that particular way in my life this week in a meeting, right? Like this is my soul's journey to keep bringing the conversation of soul and spirituality to places where we think those conversations are not supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think what comes up for me when you were saying that is, you can call it soul, you can call it number of things. I mean, but that's kind of our mission on the show, to recognize that in everything, and to listen to that and to learn to live from that place.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we live from that place, it's so interesting because the other thing we were talking about was like how to support new clinicians, like to pivot, right? So like they may be trained in certain methodologies and like, and so like, even if they don't see like change or clients are saying like this, like, I'm coming back every 2 weeks and, I'm still having the same, but whatever. And I'm like, I remember I had like the best clinical supervisor. I like the best. And you know what? Now that I think about it, she was my clinical supervisor at the same time, Robyn, I was your student. And I remember she was like, therapy is both an art and a science. And so what that means is, we don't just get wed to methodology, right? Yes, we want to make sure that we're engaging with evidence-based practice, but engaging with evidence-based practice does not mean we keep nailing a nail that's, it's not working, right? So we pivot, right? We pivot. And I find like whenever I listen to my soul and I pivot, based on what my soul is pulling me to. And I swear, every time, hands down, I always land somewhere, one, that I didn't necessarily expect, but two, has been so beneficial for my life. And that's listening to my soul.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And what was coming up for me was really how, in this time in the world when the world is very loud and things are going on and it appears busier than it has been. Maybe it's not true, whatever. But it's actually, for me, it's more of a nudge or a 2x4 sometimes to listen to my soul, to take that moment to not just go with the norm or the flow, or, to check in and make sure that it's really my time to do whatever's being called for. And I think, also, as we grow older, that I'll speak from the eye, but I was having this conversation with somebody else, and that, I've begun to question more like, okay, because, like, time, you're going the direction that it all goes, so like, what is it that's really being called forth in me now? And if I didn't do it 20 years ago and I'm still thinking I got to do that, like, really checking in with that and being with what it is that my soul will really fulfill my soul mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting card. It's an interesting card. It'll be interesting to see how it shows up.
What you just said about like how when like you, I, you, we, us, we feel or get this clear sense around, and maybe not always so clear, but we feel the calling to whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when we don't answer the calling, it's like it will just keep showing up, right? And it'll just keep reminding and just keep reminding. And again, it's so funny how much everything is connected. So I have this meeting again with these clinicians who want to understand like how to practice in my sort of tradition of practice, which was very nice. It made me feel very grown up, like, oh, I've grown up professionally.
And you were glowing. They were catching the glow.
It was actually a really fun meeting, actually. But what was I about to say? Oh, shuckaduck. Oh, I had said something about how I always have felt called to ministry, but it's never quite been able to all come together for me. Mm-hmm. Like, originally I remember when I first felt that calling, when I was like, the earliest I can remember is 13, but I was having experiences long before that. And at 13, I had fallen in love with Islam. I would say my mom, I love her so much because at the end of the day, I reflect on so many things, and my mom really let me just explore things, right? Like, and so I was like, I just was loving me some Islam. My mom even let me go to school in a hijab. It drove her insane, right? But she let me do it. And, small detour, even when I was in college and, the college that I went to originally was about a 2-hour drive from where I lived, like where my parents lived. And my parents would call me and say, such and such called us and said, you were not at school because they saw you in the French Quarter chanting with Hare Krishnas.
That's funny.
Anyways, all I'm saying is when I had said that to this group, I was like, I had to pull myself back from going to medical school because I was really, 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 really close to like stepping into that process. But I was like, no, if I'm going to study anything else, I'm going to go on and try to figure out how to move forward in ministry, right? So either in seminary or through some other mechanism, because that's just always been there for me. I wanted to be an imam, but I was 13 and neurodivergent and didn't know women couldn't do that in Islam. And then when I learned that, I was like, okay, this clearly isn't for me. So I pivoted, right? So
yeah. So it's interesting listening to your soul's journey and how it transforms over the years or adapts.
Yes.
So when we come back, we're going to be talking about glowing up. And what does that really mean? How do we grow up and radiate out into the world? And I don't know. We're going to see what we come up with when we get back. So stay tuned and join us right back here on New Thought Media Network.
Sounds good.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought, Philadelphia. Center for Spiritual Living, United Life, Sunshine Cathedral. Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center, Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you. Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network. New Thought Media Network proudly presents the Science of Mind Saturday Conversations. Learn more about the Science of Mind philosophy, faith, and way of life. Join our team of experts for a weekly deep dive discussion. Come study the science of mind, chapter by chapter, and resources from the Science of Mind archives. Plan to join us every Saturday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Only on the New Thought Media Network.
Welcome to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Your hosts are two girls who believe that life is awesome, that laughter heals, and that it's possible to find deep spiritual insights in everyday experience.
Here come the girls. It's more than practical. Here come the girls. Way more than merely factual. If you want to know the secrets of a life that's free, listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Listen to Girls Behaving Metaphysically.
Hello, we're back.
And we're on different sides of the screen now.
We are. Look at our producer keeping it live. All right. Yes. That's Dr. Natasha Wilson, and I'm Robyn Rice Olmsted. And before we get started talking about glowing up, I just want to say, if you were watching those commercials, because I was watching those commercials, and you saw the one with everybody's name on it, there is a way to get your name on there. And you might notice our nifty little QR code up at the top of the square you're looking at. Well, you click on that, and if you are so generous to donate to us and sign up to do that monthly, that will help us keep our producer, which you really want us to do. Because if you've ever watched the show on a day when he's not here, you would pay big money to have him here. So if you feel it in your heart, if you're inspired at all by the work that New Thought Media is doing and that we're doing in the world, we're all up-leveling. We're all up-leveling the game, and we want to keep it going. And we would love for you to be a part of it. So click on that QR code and do what you can. Share with us in the chat where you're watching from and how we can support you, and maybe even things you want to see on the show, because we'd love to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Absolutely.
But today, we're glowing up.
Yeah.
So what does that mean, glowing up? What does that mean to you? What does that topic mean to you?
All I know, Robyn, is when I saw it, I got excited. misread your message, right? I don't know. I think I had a conversation recently. Oh God, I'm not on social media anymore, but with people who are like in my real life, we catch up from time to time. And I was talking to someone who I had not spoken to since high school. Okay. Wow. High school. We graduated together in high school in 1994.
Wow.
And we were like best friends back then. And she just said to me, Natasha, I don't know what you're doing, but you are way more prettier today than you even were in high school. And I was like, thank you so much. And I said, girl, I know I've grown up. Like I'm glowing up, right? I've grown up, like, whatever. And then went on to like talk about like aging and how aging really can be a process of glowing up. And so we were talking about it like on a physical level, but we also ended up talking about how much what we see on the outside often, especially with deeply soulful people, it radiates. It radiates. And so, yeah, we're talking about like, what does it mean to like really continue to live our lives like soulfully and deeply? Very much what we were just talking about this morning. This is what I'm saying, like everything is so connected. And the fact that that card was pulled and the fact that I misread your text message, but also got excited at the same time. I just feel like glowing up is this ongoing process of like letting your soul unfold to, like I get, Michael Beckwith, I remember him saying like, until your soul's greatest yet to be. Like, right. So to me, that's like what it means to glow up. It's like to follow that spiritual pull and to trust it, right? And when I say trust it, like for me, trust has been a very like sticky thing. Especially like, because I don't have the, anyways, we've all had loss and some traumatic loss, I'm sure, at some point in our lives. And I remember when I lost my brothers, I just had no trust that there was a divine order or that there was even a divine. And that was huge for someone like me who at 13 wanted to be an imam, right? And if I'm honest, I struggled with it again when my nephew, took his life just a few years ago. And I keep coming back to, there is a divine order. I don't have to understand it all, right? And I can follow the impulse, the spiritual impulse. And so glowing up, like I'm thinking about through the experience with my nephew, led me to do a lot of writing. And so I'm talking to publishers about this like collection of poetry that I wrote dedicated to my nephew. And I'll share the title because, you can't have it, it's copywritten. But it's called Confessions of a Hope Dealer, and I was like, yeah, I deal in hope, but I don't deal in blind hope. I deal in hope because I know what it's like to walk through pain. I know what it's like to question even the existence of a divine, and to come around back into my own heart with a knowing that absolutely is a divine order to this world. And not this world, but to everything we see in the cosmos. I mean, looking at the cosmos is just evidence of that, right? Mars ain't crashing into Venus. Saturn ain't crashing into the moon. There's a divine order to everything. And so, and we all have a place in that divine order. So, yeah. So anyways, when I think about like glowing up, I think about continuing to listen to that internal soulful guidance, and then glowing up is just a natural consequence.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I mean, to put it succinctly, I think what is glowing up has to do with doing the work and the work becoming visible as your life.
Yes.
So, and when we say doing the work, it means like being with yourself, doing meditation, whatever that, the ways you choose to shift your energy, and and it comes from the alignment, of like your healing, clarity, relationships, what has an impact on you, and it's. I think it's really the moment when your inner work becomes visible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what we're talking about. And I think that when I thought about it for the brief 10 minutes before the show, I thought that there, really in some ways, I think there's like three facets of it, like your inner work, your relational work, and then your work in the world. And how do you glow in those places collectively and on your own, and I think it starts with yourself, right? And how do we do that? How do we move into that space?
What do you think in terms of how we move into that space?
Well, I think it's really, the first stage is really about your alignment, well, maybe it's about knowing yourself, kind of being able to be with yourself and recognize maybe the truth of where you are, and, knowing like there's things that you may want to shift and stuff, and growing into alignment with that, so that you match your truth, which is exactly what we're talking about, the soul's journey, so that we match our soul's desire, our soul's journey. Like, are we living in that alignment? And then I think there's also like the healing part of that, where sometimes we look and go, oh yeah, that's an old story, I don't want to carry that, or I don't need to buy into this thought, or that's not really the truth of who I am. And I think being able to breathe into that and see also, I've been doing the artist way recently, and it makes me just think of like, your monsters, or the people that have dimmed your light, or the stories that you've told yourself, like really letting go, or releasing those, or acknowledging them, or exploring them. Probably I just did it the backwards order. So acknowledging, exploring, releasing, but being able to move into that space. And just like when we looked at the 4 agreements, being able to look at those principles and really, really explore them, and, anchor them. And and I think we begin to glow when we really kind of grow into that. And it happens at different stages for people, I know, but grow into that place of enoughness, and knowing, that power of who we are, and we stop performing and we start being and
Yes.
and allowing.
Yes.
And I think that that's
Yes.
the beginning stage of glowing up.
Yes. Yes. And there is this other thing that I noticed that happens, because remember, like, okay, so the way that I read your suggestion for the topic, right? Even though I got the words wrong, what I read, like what stood with me was, okay, so how do we know when we are glowing up? Right? How do we know?
Yeah, how do we know?
Yeah. And that really, really stuck with me. Well, first, I think I've told you about this, right? I told you about this?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So glow up. Okay. And then we stay connected to our soul's purpose.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, that we stay connected to our soul's purpose. And when we do that, then we really stop abandoning ourselves.
That's right.
And we stop letting our energy get dissipated out there and, having that sporadic energy leakage, where it really doesn't serve us, and we're just, we can stay true to ourselves and stay true to that mission,
The other thing, just to get back to being serious. I mean, I am serious about this spray. I mean, if you want that glow like that, it's real. But if you got hair like mine, you got to make sure your hair is out the way, because if I spray, it's going to turn into an afro like instantly on camera. Okay, so, but one of the ways I know I have grown up in certain domains is that I really live my life. I don't really worry about what other people think about what I'm doing or the choices that I'm making. Do I care about people? Absolutely. But my check-in system, when I was younger, my check-in system was so external, right? Now, my check-in system starts here, and I'm pointing to this, my heart in particular, because I know when my heart is in coherence, when I am in heart-brain coherence, that I'm glowing up and that I am making choices that serve the evolution of my soul and the evolution of my spirit. And so I know then that whatever I'm doing in the world is an extension of serving the divine in the world, right?
Yeah. And I think that's exactly how you know when you're, not in the stage one of becoming. That's when you've let go of that's when you're no longer, trying to fit in somewhere. You're able to glow in your relationships, and you're choosing different relationships that are healthy.
Yeah.
That really, amplify what you're doing or what you want or what your soul's calling for.
That's right.
And you're able to speak freely and speak the truth. You're not holding back to try to appease people or whatever. So you're really living, from that place of speaking truth with love and, without the fear.
Yeah.
I think all those things are really, not only, you're in harmony with yourself, but you're also creating, if you're the mirror to people's reactions, you're creating that kind of network that's supporting you in your shared caring and shared love and shared, like-mindedness of kindness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we've talked about it before. I mean, we're at a different stage in our life where we know when somebody's not aligned with our mission or our light or our purpose,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
sometimes we have to shift and let go of a relationship to allow others to blossom more fully.
Absolutely. You know, I really, I may have said this a few weeks ago, like I'm really at a stage in my life where my relationships, whether it's friendships, work, clients, like they're curated. They're curated based on deep and fundamental alignments.
Right.
So my circle looks different, but because I am more discerning based on having a deep connection to my own internal check-in, right? My checking in with my own soul, my circle of connection is literally curated. And it's sort of like this feedback loop, right? Where my relationship with them encourages their glow. Their relationship with me encourages my glow. And it's really quite, it's a beautiful way to live. And, you know, our show is called Girls Behaving Metaphysically, right? We're both women. And, you know, as human beings that are socialized as women and girls, we are literally socialized to place our sense of who we are and our worth out there. It's why it is such a revelation when someone, especially a woman, a person who has been socialized as a woman or a girl, comes to this point in life that they're not looking out there. They're not, right? It's what other people think about you is just really not your business, right? Like we come back home to the divine within. I just think that there's a power and a beauty and a glow in being like your internal space of reference. And then just the one last thing that I want to say, because I am forgetting things this morning quite a bit, I'm noticing, but there was something that I wanted to say that has gone into the ethers. It'll come back.
Well, it needs to come back in the next 3 minutes.
If it doesn't come back in the next 3 minutes, that's all right. I'll text you about it later.
So, but I think you're speaking beautifully to like what I was saying about, you know, us with out in the world, because I think that's the stage you're talking about. It's like once we move through, you know, those steps, then our glow becomes the light of the world. It becomes the service that we give. It becomes who we are. Just like when you were talking about your calls and being on your calls, and you know, you were sharing from your space of purpose and heart, you know, and who you are with people, and you know, you're allowing your gifts to.
What calls?
With the therapists, with the clinicians, with
whatever. No, that was in person. That was at a meeting.
Okay, at the meeting. Well, so yeah. At the meeting, I mean, it's the same thing, because you know you showed up and you're energized by it. It's not like oh God, I got to do this. It's, you know, you're living in that space of that energy. You know,
yeah, authenticity. It's an authenticity.
It's authenticity. It's not performance. It's being who you are and sharing that. And you know, that when you're in that space, that you can be in a room and you can shift the room. You know, and that's, you know, your energy, your conversation, your sharingness, whatever that is. And that's the light that you leave. That's the glow that you leave on other people, so that they're, that you leave behind. That's, I mean, that's the really rapid version of all of it,
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, so at the end of the day, it's like, so how do we know when we're glowing up? Well, when we're aligned, right? When we're aligned with spirit, when we feel it, when it's we know we're coming from that honest place, and,
Yeah.
we glow when we know we're loved. You glow when your kids hug you, right? When your
I glow when I just think about them.
There you go. But that's it. It's because we're in that space of authenticity and realness, and that energetic of what we feel and what that brings to us.
No, seriously, my children, they're like, oh. I told you I went to therapy to make sure I wasn't over loving them. I mean, look at my daughter when she was 3 at dance school. In her tutu. Look at that.
Okay, that should make all of us glow. But right now it's time to go, not glow. So where would you go? Next week, we don't know what we'll be talking about. We'll see, but just remember that, glowing up is really about allowing yourself to live into its fullness. It's not about chasing something or new cosmetics. It's really about what happens when you choose yourself with consistency and commitment and compassion and courage and all of the things that it takes, to really honor your value and stop negotiating with your self-worth and all those things. So we're just encouraging you not to dim your light, not to dim your brilliance.
Yes.
And
yes. Look, cosmetics aside, I'm not really into them this much, but this spray, which is not a cosmetics, I'm telling you, this spray and drinking a lot of water also contributes to a physical glow.
You know what? Unless that spray's owner has clicked on that QR code, we are not talking about it anymore. So, go out into the world and glow, everybody.
Yes.
All right. And we'll see you next week on Girls Behaving Metaphysically. Thank you.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you, Michael Mangus, our fabulous producer. Click the QR code. Bye.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought, Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.